Hello again, everyone. Today I am here to swatch these Schmincke Special Edition Icy colors in watercolor. And these are all pastel watercolors that are pretty much opaque, I believe. And they're a little bit like gouache because they have a lot of white added to them. I think you could use them probably either as watercolors or gouache because when I had a little bit of a spill with these watercolors, I tried applying them thickly to paper and they behaved very much like gouache. But all that said, this is how they come in this little box. And they come in 15 milliliter tubes. I purchased these from, where did I purchase these? St. Louis Art Supply, and that's the only place I have seen them available in the United States, but I think that they are more widely available elsewhere. These are fairly large tubes, and actually the price was pretty decent, but do note that these are Academy Aquarelle watercolors, which is more in Schmincke's student line. So they're not professional watercolors, which basically means they're probably going to have a little less pigment. Okay, well, I'm going to put these aside here because I am going to tell you what the pigment numbers are. In the meantime, I have filled all of these full pans that I just put in a black watercolor tin. This looks like it was an A-Gallo tin, which I've since moved some of those colors from this palette into a different palette. So I've already done an initial swatch of these, but I'm going to do a little bit larger swatches here and show you how they can be both opaque and how they look with a little bit more water, which I have not tried yet other than, you know, a little bit of extra water here on this blue. So I'm going to put these off to the side. And actually, let me get the light on because I think that'll probably show up better. There we go. Having some technical difficulties today, clearly. All right, so I am going to use this smaller brush. It's a Princeton Velvet Touch Round in a number 5. And that's mostly because this brush is a little bit stiffer. It is a little bit smaller, so we'll see. I might switch in the middle just because it's a little bit harder to do swatches with a smaller brush. And then I have some water and a paper towel off to the side. These I just put in these full pans, so they have not dried yet. And I have not used these dried yet. And you'll see that there's actually a little bit of separation from with the white and the color in these pans. I'm not sure if that is going to happen every time, but just wanted to note it. And you could use these right out of the tubes as well, which I think is probably a good way to use these because they are very gouache-like. Okay, so this is Icy Yellow. And I'm going to do it fairly opaque here. And then I'm going to add a little bit of water to the second half of the swatch, just so that you can see. Okay. And that one is going to be a little bit difficult to see. I'll put it up close to the camera towards the end here. And then this next one is Icy Orange. They all have icy in front of them. I'm going to go across here, I think. So again, I'm going to apply the paint in an opaque fashion for the first half of the swatch. And then I am going to add some water to the second half. And this one I also noticed on my swatch card that it had a little bit of color mixing from the pan. Like there's a little bit of yellow and maybe orange separation. Oh, I did want to tell you what these colors are or what the pigments are. So let me get those to a place where I can read those to you a little bit easier. So this yellow is PW6 and PY74. So they're all going to have white in them. And then this orange is PW6, PY74, and PO43. So it's essentially this with some PO43, which is an orange pigment in there. And the next one is a red, These all have very simple names, just Icy Red is this one. And once they have dried in the pans, you're not going to be able to apply them this thickly. So if you want to apply them thickly like this, I would say leave them in the tubes and don't put them in pans. Okay, so that's opaque for the first half, and then we're going to add some water for the second half. There we go. And this one is PW6 and PR112. And the next one is a pink, Icy Pink. So I'm going to do this one opaque first. I have not tried mixing these yet because I only just opened them really. So I'm not sure how they would handle with other colors, but do keep in mind that these are going to skew pretty opaque unless you really water them down. And they're going to probably make other colors that you mix them with fairly opaque as well. So this is PW6 and PR122. Okay, and then the next one is violet. I'm going to move down to this next row here. And again, applying thickly with just a little bit of water on my brush. And then for the second half, I'm going to add more water. They flow very nicely, I think. It just depends on how you want to use them. Okay, so this one is PW6, PB15:1, and PV23. So if you're a single pigment watercolor person, these are not the paints for you. But I have been getting more into pastels, so I did want to try these out when I saw them. And this color is just blue. Icy Blue. Like I said, they do lay down really smoothly, so I think they will definitely have their purpose in my palette. All right, and this one is PW6, PB15:1, and PV23. Is that the same as the last? It is. That's interesting. So these just must be same pigments, but in different amounts. And they all say special shade on the side here. So this next one is Icy Turquoise. And again, I'm just dipping into the wet paint in the pan and getting a little bit on my brush. I'm doing definitely more than I would do with standard watercolor to get this opaque quality here. And then add a little bit of water to the brush. Seems to be still pretty opaque even with a bit of water. Okay, so that's Icy Turquoise, and that one is PW6, PB15:3. And then I have Icy Blue Green, oops, which looks like I actually am leaking a little bit here. This one definitely leapt out of the tube when I opened it. And these are all very pretty colors and not necessarily colors I would already have in pastel watercolors that I already have. In fact, I don't have many pastel watercolors. So I think this is a good addition. I'm going to wipe off this cap just a little bit so that it doesn't get everywhere. All right, the next one is Icy Green. I'm going to start yet another row here. Okay, opaque at first, or at least mostly opaque, and then adding some water. But yeah, I'm guessing again that this one is more than 2 pigments because I am getting a little bit of color streaking. I think that makes it kind of interesting. But if you want a very smooth and even color, these might not be your best choice. Yes, so this has PW6, PG36, and PY74. So basically the green and the yellow is separating a little bit here. And I'll put this up to the camera again so you can see it a little better. And then now we have Icy Red Brown. These next three are sort of their attempt at earth colors within the pastel palette here. Okay. So again, the thicker application, it behaves more like gouache. And then when you water it out, it's a little more like watercolor. And this is pretty matte too when it dries, so that's also indicative of a gouache. It would be matte if it were a gouache. Oops, looks like I had a little dot of water that went onto my color swatch card here. Okay, so this one's the red brown, and this one is PW6 and PBR25. That was red brown, and then this next one is just plain old brown, icy brown, that is. Okay. There we go, with a little bit of water. And then the last one, oh, first I have to tell you what that is. So that is PW6, PBR25, and PG36. So there's a little bit of green in that one. And then the final color here is Icy Gray, which seems to be a fairly neutral gray, like not really leaning cool or warm. Although if I were to have to classify it, I would say it's more on the warm side. And again, getting a little bit of color separation. It's kind of interesting with these. Okay, and then there we go. All right, and the gray is PW6, PG36, PBR25, and PBK7. So there is black in that gray. All right, so I'm gonna put all those tubes up there because I don't need them anymore. And then here you can see, this is what I was trying to show you, how the pigment is separating a little bit. Like this, I did not add another color there, but you can see the yellow separating a little bit from the other pigment in there. So I just thought that was kind of interesting because I'm not usually seeing that with tube paints. And maybe it's just because these have white in them. They all have PW6. So that's a little more pronounced. Like where I put the water, you can see the blue pigment a little bit more than the white. But I'm not sure if that will affect things once it's dried. I'm interested to see how they'll work when they're dried. I'm assuming you won't be able to get as thick of an application like I did here. These dry pretty fast. These are mostly dry now. And they do dry very, very matte. And so this is the yellow, orange, red, pink, violet, blue, turquoise, blue green. This one's green, red brown, brown, and gray. And then I'm actually going to turn the light off again to see how that shows up a little differently. That light's just a little bit warmer than the natural light in here. And I also have another lamp over there, but you're not getting much of that. All right. Well, that's all I had for you today. I just got these in and was going to swatch them and didn't want to leave you guys out. All right, well, that's all I had for you today. Feel free to subscribe to keep track of future videos on my channel. If you enjoyed this video, give it a like. If you have any questions, feel free to ask below. I hope to see you next time, but in the meantime, have a great day. Thanks so much. Bye.